Hello again, Bill Jones, recapturefederalism.com, recapturefederalism.com on the net, on YouTube, being suppressed by YouTube, Google, all the commie bastards, and they are commie bastards. They are pro-communist. They and Wikipedia and ACLU and Hollywood and all that kind of stuff. Today's subject is about communism, of course. That's because that's all I ever talk about for the last 55 years or so. Been anti-communist. Subject is President Trump, Part 12, Notice of Treason, American political parties, no legal basis. What? No legal basis? Yeah, we're going back 220 years when there was a usurpation, a seizure of the rights of the people. And we're going to be talking about that today. Before I go any farther, we got to read, take my oath. Got to take my oath. Because that's, taking an oath is Article 6 of the Constitution. You know, 1963, there was a Congress investigated overthrow of government by communism. They didn't do anything about it. Yeah, but they did, there was some testimony. There are 45 goals of communism. And one of them was, don't take any loyalty oaths. Don't take any loyalty oaths, even though it's part of the Constitution. And of course, as I always say, the communists and the political parties are under the impression that the Constitution is a flowing document. It is not a flowing document. It is a permanent document based upon Romans 13 in the Bible. But I digress, as I usually do. I, William R. Jones, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, so help me God. I first took that oath in July 1965 when I joined the United States Navy. The enemy then was communism, as the enemy is now communism. And let me get the Constitution out, because we're going to talk about the Constitution. Article 3, Section 3, and treason against the United States consists only in levying war against them, comma, or in adhering to their enemies, comma, giving them aid and comfort. Now, giving them aid and comfort, the enemies, domestic, I just read it, domestic enemies and foreign enemies. Political parties, not supposed to exist. Foreign enemies, they've gone to the Communist Party. That they think it's a flowing document and it goes to the Communist Party. Political party supremacy. Page 25 of the Communist Manifesto. Also open borders. They don't believe in countries either, but that's also on that page too. So we have treason, which is in the Constitution, the original Constitution. It's still there. It's been codified. 18 U.S.C. Chapter 115. By the way, insurrection. We had a deal last night. Berkeley, University of California, Berkeley. Insurrection there last night. I see on the Blaze article today talking about an actress out in Hollywood talking about military having overthrowing the government. So they're advocating overthrowing in the government. Mentioned in there an aide to President Obama, who's a communist, by the way. I've done presentation after presentation of this. He's a communist. So President overthrowing the government, communist. He's a communist community organizer. Says he's a Christian. He's not a Christian. He's a liberation theology. Jeremiah Wright. Okay? Now, where do I say that there's no legal basis? Okay? Let me, here we have there we go. Silent, secret American insurrection and revolutionary movement. And that's what you have with happening out there, University of California, Berkeley. Been going on since 1965, SDS, DSA, all these organizations, funded a lot of them by Mr. Soros, who's a communist, and he's advocating the overthrow of government, involved in treason also. Now, George Washington farewell address, 1796. About 5 or 6 paragraphs in there, and the last paragraph having to do, the 5 or 6, having to do with political parties. He talks about political parties, and in talking about it, I'm going to read it. It is important likewise that the habits of thinking in a free country should inspire caution to those entrusted with its administration to confine themselves with their respective constitutional spheres, avoiding in the exercise of the powers of one department to encroach upon another. The spirit of encroachment tends to consolidate the powers of all the departments in one, and thus to create whatever the form of government, a real despotism. A just estimate of that love of power and proneness to abuse it which predominates in the human heart is sufficient to satisfy us of the truth of this position. The necessity of reciprocal checks in the exercise of political power by dividing and distributing it into different depositories and constituting each the guardian of the public weal against invasions by others or others has been evinced by experiments ancient and modern, some of them in our own country and under our own eyes. To preserve them must be as necessary as to institute them. If the opinion of the people, the distribution and modification of the constitutional powers be in any particular wrong, let it be corrected by an amendment in a way which the Constitution designates. I'm going to stop reading at this point. I'm going to continue reading on a little bit, but let me go back to what George Washington's saying. 3 branches of government. You bring in the political parties, and you end up having one. Instead of the consent of the people, you have the consent of the parties, and they destroy the branches. And we saw this with Obama. Executive orders. He went into the judiciary, took out the General Motors bankruptcy, took private property from bondholders, gave the company partially to union members. Pure communism, political party supremacy. Now, let me continue reading. But let there be no change. Well, let me go back again. Corrected by amendment. No amendment to allowing political parties. Okay? In the 200 plus years we have had an American government and a constitutional government. But let me continue. Let there be no change by usurpation, for through this, in one instance, may be an instrument of good. It is a customary weapon by which free governments are destroyed. And let me finish reading that. There. Usurpation. John Adams was George Washington's vice president. He was a party member, Federalist Party. when he became president, elected after George Washington completed 2 terms, he became a party. And there were other parties too. There were other parties there too. And nobody exercised the obligation to invoke the treason clause, and no one has done so since then. It is treasonable what was done. We've had nothing but treason since then. And where was the press at this time? The press, fake stories, fraudulent misrepresentations for 220 years. They have been conspiring with the 2 parties in controlling the government of the United States against the wishes of we the people. And that's why I filed, one of the reasons, I filed treason charges with 7 people on January 25th, 2016. It was also, another reason was religious persecution. Also, following George Washington talking about the political parties and the faulting of political parties, he talks about religion and morality. The fact is that the Constitution of the United States was instituted and created to offset the 7 deadly sins, the 7 evil spirits, morality. And then what do I say? But communist abolishes eternal truth and abolishes all religion and all morality. Page 26 of the Communist Manifesto. Page 26 of the Communist Manifesto. And George Washington, in his farewell address, said you cannot have morality without religion. And that's where you see on my graphic of religion. Religious persecution been going on now for 160 some years since the introduction of communism in the United States. And with that, we're going to be gone for the day. Goodbye.